Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of There I Am Right There. Please vote for me. My name is Thomas W. Timbrooks. I'm running for the United States House of Representatives for Oregon's 6th Congressional District. I'm a Republican. I'm running on the Republican Party ticket. Now, this is Congress in the United States. The U.S. Congress in Washington, D.C. So there's a Congress in your state. Every state has a Congress, and the United States has got a Congress in Washington, D.C. So this would be the federal Congress, 6th Congressional District in Oregon here, okay? So let's see now. I want to make Oregon's 6th Congressional District America's greatest congressional district, okay? Now, here's the thing. I'm going to get my little emotional support clipboard here. Make sure that microphone's all out and everything, because sometimes that microphone can slip a little bit. I'm going to put this, keeps on getting right there next to my chest hair and everything. I think that's probably a better place for it right there. I hope so anyway. We already did a sound check. Anyways, so I got a couple of things on my emotional support clipboard here. Little Post-its and everything. Last week I did a presentation about the Islamic Church and the value of Islamic people in America. And one of the points I wanted to make was that Muslims in America have been here for a very long time, since before the beginning. Muslims helped to fight for America in our revolution, the Civil War, War of 1812, World War I, World War II, all of the conflicts. So American Muslims are an extremely valuable part of American society. And my whole point last week was that there are a lot of Muslims coming into America now who seem to be of sort of a different attitude. And their attitude is that America, it's the responsibility of Muslims coming into America to make America into a Muslim country. And that sort of goes against the whole philosophy set up by the Quran and by the Islamic Church in general. The whole philosophy of the Islamic Church is, and that's the way it is, the Church of Islam, the Muslim people. Muslim people go to the church, the Islamic Church, or worship the Islamic faith, okay? So what the Quran says, or what the Islamic religious scripture says, is that Muslims going into a foreign country should try to take on the traditions, the ideas, the philosophies of the country they're going into, and just basically try to blend in. Try to be as much of that group as possible. And, here's the thing. Muslim people have been in America since before it was America. Christopher Columbus, Amerigo Vespucci, they showed up in America, and shortly after that, Muslims showed up. And nobody really even knew what Muslims were before 9/11, 2001 9/11, right? Nobody even knew what they were, which means that the Muslims that were in America were following the Quran. They were doing everything right. They were perfect American citizens. And the people who did the 9/11 thing, they were Muslims from another country. They were not American Muslims. And the people, the Muslims who are living in America actually helped the American government to find out about the Muslims that did the 9/11 thing. So, yeah, the Islamic Church, the Muslim people, a very important part of America. And as a representative of the Americans, if I am elected to the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., I will do everything possible to protect our Muslim citizens of America. Well, everybody. I want to represent everybody in our district and in America equally. There's 2 jobs for people in federal government and in Congress. One job is to shape the national policy. I got it right down here. Yeah, sometimes I get a little tongue twisted here. Shape national policy, to direct national policy. And America's national policy is laid out in our Declaration of Independence. All people are entitled to the right of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And our First Amendment to the Constitution says freedom of religion. And one of the reasons that freedom of religion was actually included in the Constitution of the First Amendment is because the Founding Fathers had such a high degree of respect for Muslim people, the Islamic Church, the Islamic faith, very, very highly regarded with the Founding Fathers. So the Islamic Church, the Islamic faith, the Muslim people, very, very important to America, and they're American citizens, they're American people. They need the American government to ensure that there is an environment for them where they can live out their lives, where they can enjoy the freedoms, the rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that are guaranteed to all American citizens. And when situations arise, like new Muslim people coming into America and trying to force the already established Muslim community, trying to force them to live their lives the way they say, it's up to America to defend. We, the American people, have to defend our American Muslim community from anybody who would try to jeopardize their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. This is their American rights. America needs to defend them. So since then, that was last Thursday, I put the video out. There's been some bad stuff happen. There was a shooting in Brown University. There's a shooting in Australia. Some, well, it's just bad stuff. And here I got my little Post-it notes here, and so one of the things I wanted to talk about, want to say, people are saying the Church of Islam is bad. The Church of Islam, and they're saying, hey, is the Church of Islam really the Church of Peace? I mean, it advertises itself as the Church of Peace, but is it really the Church of Peace? And see, here's the thing about that. Every religion advertises itself as peaceful. Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, all churches, all religions advertise themselves as the Church of Peace, as a peaceful way. And that's because religion, any religion at all, throughout history, Zoroastric, the Upanishads, whatever, 10,000, 20,000 years ago, people started worshiping religions. You know, the Native Americans had their own religion and everything. Any religion is essentially it serves as the glue that holds society together. You see, because human beings are essentially, we are animals, okay? Human beings have existed on the planet for, what, 1 million years? Less than 1 million years, I guess 800,000 years, something like that. But we evolved from other animals, and those other animals evolved from animals. And eventually, if you go back far enough, you'll see, you know, human beings, we have been living in a civilized environment for a few thousand years. A few thousand years of civilization cannot erase millions, hundreds of billions of years of natural selection. The reason that we human beings exist right now is because our ancestors were the most violent, hostile, obscene, deviant creatures that humans can possibly be. We murdered, they murdered, they slaughtered, they killed off all of the competition. And we survive now because of them. Well, a few thousand years of civilization cannot erase all of the history of human existence. Religion is a way that human beings can, it's an idea, it's a philosophy, it's a way that human beings can coexist without being horribly violent to each other. Now, of course, these are acts of violence. These are acts of violence that are happening all over the place. It's not the Islamic faith. It's human nature. These mass executions, these people, mass shootings like that, the Quran specifically, and I've got something here, the Quran specifically states that that's wrong. There are parts in the Quran that say, nope, it's wrong. You can't go around killing people. And in fact, there are many examples of Islamic leaders who could have carried out mass executions and mass slaughter of people in history, and they didn't. They chose not to. Okay, so it really is against, well, it's against every religion. Every religion throughout time would be opposed to the murder of innocent people. The people who are carrying out these shootings, these violent acts, they do not represent any religion. They represent whack jobs. They represent the insanity that is man. They represent the animals that we were at one time millions of years ago. Okay, they are as close to the animals as you can get. They don't observe the civilization. They're not part of civilized society. They are just the crazy people that we used to be 100,000 years ago, like that. So yes, these are Islamic people. There are Muslim people who are carrying out these actions, but they aren't the example of Muslim Americans. Okay, I mean before 9/11, I don't imagine. I can't really think of any issue Americans had with Muslims. I can't think of any thing that Muslim Americans did. In fact, Charles Manson was a Christian. I mean, he believed he was the next Jesus Christ and everything. And Charles Manson carried out all kinds of criminal behavior in the name of the Beatles, the rock and roll band, the Beatles. And the Beatles, they weren't violent, So I mean, yeah. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make here is, don't judge our American Muslim citizens by the acts of some crazy people in other countries. We need to protect our citizens and help them to stay focused on being good American citizens. That's because that's what they want to be. They want to be good American citizens, and it's up to us to protect them. I mean, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, all support that idea. And so let's not blame American Muslims for what some whack jobs do. So anyways, that was one thing that I wanted to talk about. And yeah, the acid attacks, the Sharia law and all that stuff. You can't judge American Muslims by what foreign Muslims do. Okay, yeah, religion. Okay, so I covered all this stuff. Okay, now another thing. I got something I said last week is every person is, two people. You are who you are and you're what you are, okay? What you are is everything about yourself that can be commoditized. Now, for me, what I am is a manufacturing engineer. Who I am is, well, I'm a crazy person who loves haunted houses, okay? That's who I am. My point on that was you shouldn't vote for somebody based on who they are. You should vote for somebody based on what they are. Just like you're hiring somebody for a job. Okay, this is an interview. I'm being interviewed by you. You're listening to me talk. This is an interview, and you're saying, do I want to hire this person for the job? If a majority of the citizens in the congressional district vote for me, that means I get the job. If they don't vote for me, I don't get the job. So I'm saying this is an interview. You are evaluating what I am, not who I am. And a lot of times people are elected based on who they are and not what they are. And that's really a disservice to the American people because the Constitution is really the roadmap by which the process of ensuring all Americans enjoy the rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is realized. That's the roadmap. You want somebody for the job who understands the Constitution, who knows the Constitution, who has a realistic understanding of constitutional law and why the Constitution exists. That's all what a person is. That's not who a person is. Like I said, I love haunted houses, and I love Halloween, and I love all these scary, crazy things. I love horror movies. That shouldn't matter. It shouldn't. Who I am really shouldn't matter for what I want to accomplish. So when I say, every person is who you are and what you are, try to focus, whenever you're electing somebody for an office, try to focus on what that person is. Try to focus on what that person brings to the office, not who that person is. That person could be a total jerk, but that person could be exactly the person you need who's going to do everything for your congressional district. And like I said before, the two jobs of a representative are to bring federal dollars to the congressional district so that the congressional district can benefit from accomplishing things that can benefit America as a whole. In Oregon's 6th Congressional District, we have a terrific robotics industry, and that robotics industry, if we invest in it with federal dollars, could help America as a whole. Same thing with cancer research. We're doing cancer research in our district. Federal dollars could help the cancer research to benefit everybody in America. Artificial intelligence, we have some of that happening here in our district, could benefit everybody in America. There's a lot of things that we have in the 6th Congressional District that, if the federal dollars come in, could provide a really terrific return on investment for American citizens as a whole, all around America. And it's the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution that, towards the end says, nothing will be taken away from you without just compensation. And right now the federal government is taking money away from you. So you, as an American citizen, have a reasonable expectation of just compensation. And what that means is, as an American citizen, we want F-16s flying around, making sure that the enemy doesn't come to attack us. We need aircraft carriers ensuring American shores are safe from attack. We need to know that certain things that are happening, our border with Mexico, our border with Canada, make sure those things are secure. You have a reasonable expectation as an American citizen to have certain benefits that come from you paying in to the federal fund. And cancer research, artificial intelligence research, robotics research, I think those things would be terrific for Oregon and terrific for the United States. And so that, as a representative, those are 3 programs that I would try to bring federal funds in for. Okay, so that's the whole who you are, what you are thing. You should really concentrate when electing an official, when electing somebody to Congress, concentrate on what they are and what they bring. Don't worry too much about who they are. More about what they are than who you are. So let me see. That's, oh, yeah. And I also wanted to go over, I understand marketing. Marketing is a very important part of my former job, my former life at Intel. I work with the marketing people, and I've known a whole lot about marketing ever since, I think, 1997. I've worked with marketing. I've done a lot of marketing research and everything. The whole function of marketing is to convince the consumer that they need something. Okay, it's not really convincing the consumer that this is better than that. Marketing is about convincing the consumer that they need something they don't necessarily need. Okay, and this is like a long time ago, Henry Ford, one of the things that Henry Ford said was, if I gave the consumer what the consumer wanted, I would have given the consumer faster horses. So it was up to Henry Ford to convince people that people needed an automobile. Okay, and the marketing that was done by Henry Ford was pretty good. I mean, every house in America has a garage and a car. So, I mean, it was pretty effective, right? So, marketing is all about one group of people trying to convince another group of people that they need something they may or may not necessarily need or want. And this is something that happens a lot with elections. You see, the Democrats and Republicans, both sides, will hire marketing people. And the marketing people, their whole job is to try to convince you that you need a Republican or that you need a Democrat. And you see, this is where you, as the voter, you have to concentrate more on what a person is than who a person is, because if you don't do that, then you're going to be caught in a marketing trap. Ooh, I had steak and eggs for breakfast. Oh, it was so good. I love steak and eggs. But yeah, you might be caught in a marketing trap, and eventually you won't vote for the best possible candidate. You will vote for who has the best marketing team. Okay, and you want to look past the marketing, and really marketing, what marketing generally does whenever marketing tries to get you to vote for somebody, they concentrate your attention more on who a person is than what a person is. And you'll notice this in a lot of these campaigns. You vote for this person because this person is good and decent and wonderful and loves the Three Stooges and is angelic and doesn't smoke and blah, 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 right? They don't concentrate on what the person actually brings to that particular office. So me, I'm a conservative Republican, but I mean, there are a lot of really great ideas that Democrats have. So if I go to Congress, I'm not going to look at Democrats and say, I'm not talking to you. You're Democrats, we're Republicans, we're having a war. It's not a war. It's not a fight. There are no sides. The only real, it's not a side. The only thing we should care about is our Constitution and what the Constitution tells us we're supposed to be doing in any particular situation. We should be combined together to try, to maintain unity towards, progressive environment, progressing towards an environment where our government ensures an environment where all people can enjoy the rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Okay, that's the only side that there really is. There's not a Republican side, there's not a liberal Democrat side, there's not a conservative side, there's not a liberal side. There is only the side that supports the Constitution and our progress towards an environment that ensures all people in America enjoy the rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Okay, so that's something I wanted to clear up with the whole marketing strategy. And I bring up marketing a lot because, well, that's, you know, I'm familiar with marketing, and I got here. One of the important concepts in marketing is the understanding that doubt is more powerful than facts. Okay, here's facts, here's information, and the facts and information should provide you with everything you need to make a clear decision. So what marketing people will do is try to create doubt. Okay, because doubt is more powerful than information. It's more important than facts. It's more important than reality. And marketing people understand this. That's why they want to concentrate on who a person is rather than what a person is. When you're electing an official, when you're electing somebody to represent you in Congress, you should really concentrate more on what a person is than who a person is. Okay? It's because that will remove doubt. What over who removes doubt. Okay? And another thing we got here, the narcotics traffickers that are getting blown up in the Gulf, well, the Gulf of America now, it's the Gulf of America, okay? These narcotic traffickers, there's a lot of representatives, senators that are saying, oh, it's wrong, it's an act of, it's a war crime or something like that. Understand, these narcotics traffickers don't care about you. That's why they're bringing drugs to America. They don't care about you, they care about money. And that's it. So, you know, is killing them the only answer? It's an effective strategy. That's basically it. It's an effective strategy. It is preventing some drugs from getting into America, and, well, it's working pretty well. I don't condone any kind of violence at all. Sometimes it's the only answer. Sometimes violence is the most effective way to handle a problem, and if what they're doing is effective and it's handling the problem, don't feel sorry for the drug traffickers. These drug traffickers, they don't care about you. They never did. They never will. They only care about money. Okay, so that's one of the things. So I want to get into the subject of today's conversation. So the five things that I say government needs to provide: local government, federal government, like I said, federal tax dollars, and shaping our public policy, our national policy. I keep emotional security clipboard. Those are the two things at the federal. At the state level, the state is responsible for five big things. One is infrastructure. With good infrastructure comes jobs, because companies like places that have good infrastructure. So infrastructure, then jobs, and with jobs and infrastructure, where it's going to come housing. So housing comes along with that. And then, of course, people who live in the houses, they're going to need food. So infrastructure, jobs, housing, food, and down, one of the last things is going to be fuel, because people need fuel. You got to stay warm in the wintertime. Your car needs to run. So food, fuel, those things: infrastructure, jobs, housing, food, and fuel. So the one thing I want to talk about this week is the Oregon's fuel supply. what a lot of Oregons don't understand is that our last refinery closed down in 2008. And the reason it closed down was because it was no longer cost effective. And the reason it wasn't cost effective is because we have all these government standards, these incredibly stringent government standards. And it made it impossible for the refinery to stay in business. So now Oregon gets almost all of its fuel from Washington State refineries. So Washington State has refineries. Here's Washington, here's Oregon. These refineries up here, they refine the fuel and then they send gasoline and diesel down here to Oregon. So all of Oregon's gasoline and diesel comes from refineries in Washington State through a pipeline. And so, I mean, all of our fuel supply depends entirely upon what's happening in Washington State. And Washington State refineries have the same kind of stringent codes, so they're going out of business also. So the fact that our fuel comes from Washington State and Washington State refineries are going out of business means Oregon is going to have to find a different fuel supply very soon. And this is one of the things that federal tax dollars can pay for in the state of Oregon. You see, we need fuel. Every society in America needs fuel. Henry Ford ensured that. We're all dependent on the automobile. Okay, there's no more people riding to and from work on horses and everything. Okay, so we all have cars. We all depend on the automobile. Even people with electric cars, you still depend on fuel because, well, the power plants that create the electricity, that send electricity to your home, where you charge up your vehicle. They use fuel also, okay? So, yeah, and Oregon is fourth in the United States for the gas prices. I mean, there's like California up here, the highest gas prices, and Oregon's down here, and that makes absolutely no sense because we're very close to Alaska. Alaska sends a lot of oil down to Washington State, the Alaska pipeline, right? So all that fuel comes straight down to Washington, it's refined, and then it gets sent to us. Why is it so expensive? We're paying $4 or $5 a gallon. That's just crazy. The rest of the United States is paying $2 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon, like that. So why is it so expensive? It shouldn't be that expensive. Well, we need a refinery. We need at least one refinery in Oregon, possibly 3, maybe 4. Okay, so Oregon could potentially, with all the refineries, we could supply fuel to Northern California, Idaho, Nevada, Montana, these places. We could refine fuel and, supply it to other places. We could even supply it to Washington State if their refineries collapse. So federal tax dollars, the reason I said that refineries are going out of business is because federal tax dollars can be used to set up a refinery that meets all of the federal standards. That's why they're going out of business, is because it's too costly to meet federal standards. Now, it's possible that we're being convinced to go electric, but even like I said, even if the government wants us to go electric, eventually we're going to need fuel to power our power plants that provide electricity to the electric cars. So, there you have it. And my preference is actually a hybrid vehicle. They're more efficient, but that's for another time. Okay, so. Yeah, with that, I want to go ahead and get on with the slideshow here. Oregon fuel independence. Okay, and a simple fact most Oregons don't know: Oregon has 0 oil refineries, which means all refined fuel is imported from Washington State or California. Why that matters is when you don't refine your own fuel, you don't control the supply, you don't control the price, you don't control reliability. Oregon's fuel prices are determined outside of Oregon. That's not good for the people in Oregon. The pipeline dependency problem. Oregon relies on pipelines from Washington, from California, and marine fuel shipments. Any distribution upstream becomes an Oregon crisis, which means cost and availability. What's happening? Washington has active refinery shutdowns, increasing regulatory pressure, environmental policies that reduce refining capacity. When Washington refines less fuel, Oregon pays more, and that's just economics. California is not a safety net. California has its own supply issues, has aggressive fuel regulations, and has a volatile pricing. Two unstable suppliers is not equal to energy security. So fuel is one of the 5 pillars of government, like I said: infrastructure, jobs, housing, food, and fuel. And that's the government must ensure access to those 5 things. If one pillar collapses, government isn't really doing its job, right? So fuel affects everything. The fuel prices directly affect food prices because food is brought in on vehicles that use fuel. Construction costs, because everything is brought in on vehicles with fuel. Manufacturing, they need energy and electricity, which uses fuel. Emergency services, hey, those fire engines don't run on unicorn farts and good hygiene, I guess. I don't know. So household budgets, they depend on fuel. So fuel inflation is a hidden tax on everyone. And Oregon's parallel. Oregon wants affordability. We want environmental protection, and we want economic stability, but has outsourced fuel control entirely. And that doesn't work for us. This is not about more pollution. This is about modern refining technology, cleaner processes, better controls, shorter transport distances. Refining locally can be cleaner than importing remotely. That's kind of important. So transportation is pollution too. Every gallon imported, it travels hundreds of miles. It uses pipelines, ships, or trucks, adds emissions before it's even used. Local refining reduces transport emissions, so it's good for the environment. So hippies like it. The jobs arguments. So Oregon refineries would create skilled trade jobs, engineering jobs, operation and maintenance jobs, long-term stable employment. And these are family wage jobs, not temporary work. Infrastructure is national policy. So energy independence is national security issue, a supply chain issue, a resilience issue. That makes this a federal responsibility, not just a state one. And like I said, this would mean federal dollars could be allocated to the state of Oregon to develop better refinery technology. Okay, so the federal role, my role as a member of Congress, my job would be to secure federal funding, support clean refinery technology, reduce state financial risk, and ensure environmental safeguards. That's all federal stuff there. That's what I'd be doing. And what the federal funding can do, the federal investment can offset startup costs, fund emissions reducing technology, support carbon capture, and enable advanced monitoring. This makes clean refineries economically viable. The environmental responsibility done right. Modern refineries can include low NOx burners, nitrogen oxide burners, carbon capture, water recycling, continuous emissions monitoring. This is engineering, not ideology. So the technology is present. It's not just some dream. It's real. Energy independence equals price stability. When Oregon refines fuel, supply becomes predictable, prices stabilize, external shocks hurt less. Stability helps families and businesses to plan. So this is a pro-environment and pro-worker. This plan, it reduces transport emissions, uses modern clean tech, it creates high-skilled jobs, and keeps energy dollars in Oregon. Those goals are not in conflict. The bigger picture: fuel independence supports manufacturing growth, agricultural stability, emergency preparedness, long-term economic health, and this is systems thinking, okay? So what leadership looks like. Leadership means anticipating shortages, building resilience, using technology wisely, and balancing environment and economy. So why Oregon's 6th Congressional District matters here. Oregon's 6th Congressional District has industrial talent, has transportation access, has skilled workers, has engineering capability. Oregon's 6th Congressional District can be part of the solution. Now, my commitment, if I'm elected to Congress, I will advocate for federal refinery funding, demand modern environmental standards, protect affordability of fuel for Oregonians, and strengthen Oregon's energy security. My closing thought here: a stable society depends on 5 essentials: infrastructure, jobs, housing, food, and fuel. When any one of these becomes unstable, everyone feels it. Fuel that is both affordable and available is not a partisan concern, it's a public necessity. Ensuring the availability of affordable fuel is one of government's 5 essential responsibilities. Okay, so, yeah, let me get back on here. So since Washington State is closing down the refineries, this is really a golden opportunity for Oregon. You know, because if we had the federal tax dollars to help build refineries in Oregon, we could take all of the talented, skilled people who are up in Washington State right now in their refineries, say, well, you guys are unemployed up there. Why don't you come to Oregon, help us to build these refineries that meet all of the standards? We can, you know, use advanced technology, all the ideas. And I do have actually some ideas on how to improve fuel efficiency in the processes that require fossil fuels, and that's on another one of my videos. It's called a oxygen supplier thing, but yeah, that's a different video. You can check that out. So this could be a golden opportunity for Oregon to absorb the talent that is being let go in Washington State and California, and brought to Oregon to help us to develop our fuel refining technology to provide fuel independence for Oregon and sustainable jobs. So this is really a good thing for Oregon, and it's a terrific opportunity. I'd hate to see it go away. So now, this is what I was just talking about during the beginning: the Australian shooting and domestic crimes against women. This is another thing I wanted to cover because of the shootings and everything. So, separating crime from religion. Violence against women is a crime, not a religious practice. I know a lot of people try to conflate these two, but religion really does not condone crimes against women. Recent attacks are criminal acts carried out by individuals. Criminal behavior must be judged under civil law, not ideology. And blaming an entire faith for individual crimes undermines justice. See, accuracy matters when emotions are high. And like I said, Charles Manson was a Christian. He believed that he was the reincarnation of Jesus and all that, and he committed all these heinous acts in the name of the Beatles. And the Beatles were completely peaceful. I mean, if you told the Beatles that, hey, Charles Manson did this in your name, the Beatles, they'd be the first ones to say, yeah, that's not what our music is about. Our music is about all the hippie stuff, the love, the beads, sandals, free love, and all that stuff. So yeah, that's not what the Beatles are about. That's not what Christianity is about. But Charles Manson was a whack job, so that's what Charles Manson was about. So what Sharia law actually says. There is no basis in Sharia law for these attacks. Sharia forbids violence against innocents. Sharia forbids vigilantism and mob justice. Sharia forbids mutilation and torture, and private citizens have no authority to punish others. So these acts violate Islamic law. They do not reinforce it. And this is something I was talking about on last one, is that Sharia law is very close to constitutional law. In fact, when the Constitution was being written by all the founding fathers, all the founding fathers had an equal part in the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson, like I said, he owned a Quran, and he got a lot of inspiration from the Quran, and he helped to steer the construction, the development, the creation of the Constitution, partially inspired by the Quran and Sharia law. And this is why if you do your research and look into Sharia law, what you'll find is that there's a lot of Sharia law in the American constitutional law. There's a lot of Christian law in the American constitutional law. So really the American Constitution is enough. If there are communities of Muslims who say, yeah, we want Sharia law, yeah, that's it. Well, let them observe Sharia law, because there's really not much difference between Sharia law and constitutional law. So it really doesn't matter. The acid attacks are cultural crimes, not Islamic law. Acid attacks are not part of Islamic teaching or legal tradition. They are criminal acts rooted in cultural abuse or personal vendettas. They occur in Muslim and non-Muslim societies alike. They are widely condemned by Islamic scholars worldwide. There's no punishment in Islam that involves disfiguring women. And this is one of the things that happened last week. I mean, just like right after I found out about this, just right after I published, last week's presentation, last week's episode. There was a woman who was just doing something in a park, and I forget exactly what she was doing, but some person came and poured a corrosive substance on her hair, on her head, and this caused significant burning all over her body. They took her to a hospital and took care of her and everything. And a lot of people want to say, well, if we bring Muslims to America, we could see more of that. And the unfortunate reality is, yeah, but that really happens if you bring unvetted anybody into your country. Any person who has not been properly vetted should not be allowed in America. We have to know that these people might be total whack jobs. Okay, we don't want the crazy people coming to America, because if they don't want this person in their country because this person is insane and likes to dump buckets of acid on children and women, well, we probably don't want that person in America either. Okay, the Muslims that came to America, there are Muslims who come to America all the time because they want to escape these whack jobs in their home country who think that it's their right to pour acid on women. Okay, the Sharia law, the Quran, they do not condone any kind of mutilation or violence against women. This is just some crazy person doing this, and it's entirely possible that if the vetting process had been enforced during the last administration, this whack job might have not have come to America. So this crime might not have happened. Okay, and that's why I wanted to address this. This is the acid attacks, and these kinds of acid attacks happen in Iran and Pakistan and all these other Muslim countries, but it's not because they're Muslim, it's because they're nutbags. Okay, pouring acid on somebody is not the act of a rational person. We want to keep those irrational, crazy nutbag whack jobs in their home countries. So the vetting process is incredibly important for anybody that we want to bring into America. And the last administration's open borders policy has brought these people into America. And now we have this crisis where not only do we have to deal with criminals, but we actually have to defend American Muslims from being associated with these nutbags and whack jobs that come here because they think they should be able to pour acid on people's faces and stuff. It's just so we have, basically my point there is, we in America have a cleanup to do. We have some cleaning up to do. The previous administration did some dumb stuff, some irresponsible stuff. Now we have to clean up some stuff. And it's not, I'm not going to condemn Democrats. It was just a really bad idea. Maybe people thought it was a great idea. If we think it was a great idea, it was poorly executed because, and here's the proof, the fact that these whack jobs and nutbags are in America pouring acid on people's faces and shooting up schools and universities in the name of Allah or the Beatles or the Monkees or whatever group you want to say told you to do this. It's okay. So do not blame Islam. Do not blame the Muslims. These people are nutbags in any country. Okay, so that's my point there. A fair and consistent standard. Justice depends on individual responsibility. Crimes should be prosecuted as crimes. Individuals are accountable for their actions. Entire belief systems should not be judged by extremists. Protecting women requires law enforcement and accuracy, not fear of generalization. Okay, now the Gulf of America drug boat engagement also. So that's the next thing I want to talk about. Okay, we have settled this, and I don't know if it's settled, but that's my position on the situation with the Islamic faith. Islam has been part of America, part of American history since before America was America. There are many, many wonderful, amazing things that Islamic people bring to America, and I talked about them in the last presentation. I do not want to take all of the Islamic people, I don't want to take all the Muslim people out of America. I don't want to cleanse America of the Islamic faith. It's a beautiful, wonderful faith, and the people who worship the Islamic faith, the Muslims, are wonderful people. They're good Americans. We want to keep the good people here. We want to get rid of the nutbags and the whack jobs, okay? They should have never been brought into America. Find out who they are, send them back to wherever they're from, or put them in jail, whatever law says. So the second thing in the drug boat engagement, what's actually happening? The United States military is interdicting drug trafficking vessels. Drug boats operate outside of U.S. law. They are part of organized criminal networks. Their purpose is to deliver lethal substances into the United States, and these operations support domestic law enforcement. This is interdiction, not warfare against civilians. Drug trafficking is not a victimless crime. Drug traffickers knowingly profit profit from American deaths. Fentanyl and other drugs kill tens of thousands of Americans. Dealers understand the lethality of their product. Profit is prioritized over human life. Addiction, violence, and family destruction are collateral damage. They do not lose sleep over American lives lost. We shouldn't lose sleep over them losing their lives. Why Americans are not obligated to protect criminals. Compassion does not require protecting those who cause harm. Drug traffickers show no concern for their victims. They intentionally target American markets. They exploit addiction for profit. They operate with full awareness of the consequences. Caring about human life includes stopping those who destroy it. The government's responsibility here is protecting citizens is a core function of government. Defending borders includes maritime borders. Disrupting drug supply saves lives. Interdiction prevents harm before it reaches communities. Lawful force is justified to stop lethal criminal activity. This is not cruelty, it is public safety. Oh, and that's all I got. So on that now, let's say one of these fishing boats brings a whole bunch of drugs into America, and one of these fishing boats full of drugs supplies, I don't know, 1,000 Americans with lethal narcotics. And let's say, I don't know, 100, maybe 200 Americans, they die, or maybe as a result of their habit, they contract HIV or something like that happens. Or maybe, maybe the damage is less. Maybe a person gets some kind of criminal record, so they can't go to college, they can't get a decent job. And, they do this when they're 18, 19 years old. These are the kinds of things that they may not kill people, but they have a significant effect on people's lives. And it's not just adults that do drugs, children do drugs. Girls and boys who are 12, 13, 14 years old, they could get into the drug scene. They could start doing drugs at a very young age. Being really young and having access to drugs, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and some of those mistakes are going to lead to very, very permanent consequences. HIV, permanent criminal records, physical handicaps. Let's say you're 16 years old and you've been doing drugs pretty steadily since you were, 12, 13 years old. You get pregnant. You've heard about these crack babies and so forth. These are things, they have permanent consequences. The drug dealers who bring their toxic substances to America, they don't have to deal with this. They don't lose any sleep over crack babies. They don't lose any sleep over pregnant 14-year-olds. They don't lose any sleep over divorces and abuse, physical abuse that happens because family members carry out these assaults against other family members because they're high on crack. They don't know what they're doing. They're irresponsible. They're high on crack or some other drug. So there are a lot of costs attributable to drugs that don't have to do with just death or disease. There's a lot of problems that come with the drug society, and so what the Trump administration is doing is trying to solve those problems before they become problems. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, type of thing. So it's kind of critical that we understand the drug dealers don't care about you. You shouldn't care about them. You need to keep your neighborhood clean. You need to keep your affairs in order. And plus, all the stuff that the Trump administration is doing with fighting the drug problem, it's actually helping the people in Mexico. And Mexico is becoming a stronger, better, more independent country because of it. So we have to remember, America is the most powerful country on earth. The things we do have a lot of effects elsewhere. So this is actually a good thing. And this is my raccoon of the ended presentation. These are the things I want to accomplish, my top 10 things I want to accomplish. Remove $5 trillion from the national debt, propose a 28th Amendment for transparency and financial incentives, secure America's digital infrastructure by requiring PLCs be built domestically, tuberculosis and polio screening for all migrants as well as food workers, the 5-pillar blueprint to empower local governments, protecting our law enforcement through the Reasonable Operation Space Act, requiring early measles vaccination, the American Talent First Act to ensure American workers are prioritized for American jobs, immunotherapy for cancer research, and in-person voting. Those are things that I want to secure, and I support President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. I support Tulsi Gabbard for president in 2028. I know a lot of people are handing out those Donald Trump 2028 hats. I think Tulsi Gabbard should be president in 2028. That's who I would vote for. So the Make America Great Again, the MAGA agenda, yes, I do believe in the Make America Great Again thing, but I am a Make Oregon 6th Congressional District America's greatest congressional district Republican. That's what I believe in, the Musk's DAGTA agenda. Okay, so my name is Tom Timbrooks. Thank you very much for listening to me. I hope I didn't put you to sleep. I am running for United States House of Representatives, representing Oregon's 6th Congressional District. And I'm running for the Republican Party. I want to make Oregon's 6th Congressional District America's greatest congressional district. Thank you very much for listening to me, and take care.